Montana a political prisoner from Cuba.
Me, I want what's called the world and everything in it.
This country, you gotta make the money first.
You know something about cocaine?
Then when you get the money, you get the power.
I buried those cockroaches.
Then when you get the power, then you get the war.
What will become?
You have to destroy everything that comes your way. Yes, I don't even dare.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Dave's Movie Diary. Last night was Friday night, so what did I do? I sat down and watched Scarface from 1983, Brian De Palma's masterpiece with Al Pacino. Good Friday night movie because it goes for about 3 hours, and I had the time to watch it. Go to bed a little bit later, being the old fella that I am. I've got a huge personal history with this film. I first saw it a long time ago, and my relationship with it has changed over time, so it's interesting in that respect. It's really entertaining and iconic, but it's one of those films that does change depending on your history with it. I first saw it late 80s. It was a massive VHS era movie. It was perfect for endless quoting and Pacino impersonations because of the character that he portrays here. Cuban immigrant called Tony Montana comes to Miami in the early 1980s and takes the cocaine world by storm. And me and my buddies at the time were just obsessed with this film because it had heaps of violence, drugs, sex, funny lines. What more could you want as a late teen? Really, I think it really made us adopt spoken meme culture before the internet was a thing. So that's my memories of it. It was really overwhelming the first time I saw it because the movie goes for about 3 hours, like I said. There's just so much over-the-top violence, and the acting, the music, the visuals, everything is done to excess. And it's really hard to process the first time you watch it. It gets better, a lot better on rewatches. You kind of know what's going to happen, so you really enjoy the rise to power of Tony Montana and Manny, his offsider. The Miami atmosphere is really addictive. I think over time, through my 20s and 30s, it became like a masterpiece. I saw it as one of the best films ever made. It had a bit of everything. Now, in my 50s, I find the second half of the film is a lot weaker. I think the violence is less thrilling than when I was younger. Just feels a bit darker and sadder, which actually I think is the point of the movie. It starts off brilliantly. We've got a synth score from Giorgio Moroder coming in that immediately hooks you in. It's set against Cuban immigration montage with actual footage when Castro opened the doors and let a lot of Cubans go to Miami. And then Brian De Palma, the director, has some really cool red titles on black backgrounds intercut between the footage. So Miami feels dangerous and seductive immediately. I love Brian De Palma's work. He's a really maximalist filmmaker, has an operatic, cinematic style, excess everywhere usually. He's never subtle or anonymous. He aims he aims big and usually achieves that. This is one of his more conventional films, even though the subject matter is controversial. This one, The Untouchables, Mission Impossible, more by the numbers directing, whereas if you look at some of his other films like Dress to Kill and Body Double in particular, they're much more individualistic, voyeuristic, which is one of his major themes, lots of nudity, lots of provocation. He's really a man of his time. Very stylish though, great visuals. You can always tell it's a Brian De Palma film. What else? The visual excess, I've touched on it. Frank Lopez's office. Frank Lopez is played by Robert Loggia. He takes in Tony Montana. There's this awesome fake sunset backdrop to his office with palm trees, sun going down. It's the ultimate 80s drug lord office. Another great example of the visual set design that really works is Tony's mansion. Once he gets to the top, he's got a tiger chained up outside, red interiors everywhere, gold fittings everywhere, black walls. His cars have got leopard print excess going on. huge giant sunken jacuzzi with carpeting around it. Awesome. One of the great bad taste movies ever made. And the visual excess just pumps it up even more. Scripted by Oliver Stone when this is before his directing came to the fore in the mid to late 80s. He wanted to write a movie that showed the evils of cocaine that was really affecting America at the time. And the cocaine culture is really fueling the whole script. And you can see both sides, the glamorous and the ugly side, in this film. It's nearly like two halves. The first side's glamorous, interesting, pacey, euphoric. The second half is paranoid, bloated, and problematic. The movie really feels infected by the world it's depicting. Al Pacino as Tony Montana. It's one of his most iconic roles. He brings a really interesting Cuban accent, loses it occasionally, but it doesn't matter because his charisma is enormous and it just drives the whole film. He's funny, dangerous, very childish at times, terrifying. A bit of everything from Pacino we get in this one. His obsession with Michelle Pfeiffer's character, Elvira, is great to watch. Goes after with full Pacino intensity. Some great scenes. The immigration interview at the start of the film. The chainsaw-driven interaction with the Colombians. The confrontation with Frank Lopez in his office where he takes him down. The restaurant breakdown where he's just completely wasted, staggering around. He's had a drink thrown in his face by Michelle Pfeiffer. He's telling the people that they gotta, he's the bad guy that they've got to have. Obviously, the staircase finale at the end with the bazooka in his hand. Really, in this film, Tony Montana becomes bigger than the movie itself. Tony and Manny's relationship is awesome to watch. Stephen Bauer plays Manny, by far his best role ever. Their chemistry together really carried the first half for me. So funny together. Their hustle energy together when they're trying to pick up girls beachside is fantastic when Manny gets his face slapped. And Manny really brings a warmth to the film before everything collapses and gets very dark and dangerous in the second half, and he's not in it as much. So I think once Manny sort of goes out of the script, the film does lose a lot of warmth. Michelle Pfeiffer's quite good in this as Elvira. She has an iconic entrance wearing a green dress, gets Tony Montana's attention immediately. Brings a real Ice Queen energy to this one. She's looking down on Tony the whole time. He's trying desperately to impress her, trying every trick in the book. She becomes more a symbol than a real person in this, more like a fantasy than a person to Tony. But she's really good in the role, actually. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio as Tony's sister. She's good, but she's really reactive here. She doesn't have a whole lot to do, even though she's in a couple of key scenes. I thought she had a much deeper performance a few years later in The Color of Money, where she's a perfect bridge between Cruise and Newman. She really drives a lot of scenes in that film, but in this one, she's reactive. Robert Loggia, though, as Frank Lopez, perfectly cast. He's so good at these morally compromised authority figures. Seems to really enjoy playing those corrupt kind of guys. Brings a lot of sleaze element, a lot of swagger, just like his character in Officer and a Gentleman. He was excellent in Big with Tom Hanks. He had a small role in that. And I liked seeing him show up in the 90s in Lost Highway. He always looks really comfortable inside the moral decay that his characters live in. So I feel that this film, for me, anyway, over such a long period of time that I've been watching it, now has a real rise and fall effect, or it has over time. Through my 20s and 30s, I thought this film was a masterpiece, probably a 9.5 or a 10 out of 10. In the last 5 or 10 years, I'm down the other side of the wave now. I do notice some of the excess in the film more. The violence becomes a bit wearing. I really like the first half of the film a lot better than the second half. So in the first half, we're getting the beginnings of Tony and Manny in Miami washing dishes. Then they get a bit of an opportunity with the Colombians trying to do that deal for Omar. Omar and Tony going down to Bolivia trying to get a new source in Sosa. That's great stuff. The finale with Omar hanging out of the helicopter. Then taking on Frank, taking him down. The montage with the cash in the plastic bags going into the bank. All that's fantastic. Gets married, gets his new mansion. We're still on really strong footing in the film. Then I feel like it goes a bit downhill from there on. Tony becomes a bit exhausting. The cocaine elements are becoming obvious. Everyone's sniffing all the time. Elvira, Tony, even Manny. Everyone's getting paranoid, isolated emotionally. The violence becomes less exciting and just more routine. The film gets really bloated towards the end, and some of the plot flaws really come out near the end, especially with the hit squad infiltration when Sosa's men show up. It's just really by the numbers and a bit unbelievable. The film gets really messy and sloppy, just like Tony himself, actually. And you could even think of the film as cocaine. The first half's euphoric, funny, very seductive and energetic. The second half becomes paranoid, ugly, bloated and exhausting. And so I think Scarface does behave like cocaine itself, a rush followed by a come down. The final shootout, it's very iconic now. It's completely over the top. It's a bit ridiculous and iconic at the same time. We get Pacino in full frenzy mode. I think I could sum it up as meat explosion in a bordello energy. The way that the staircase and the red walls everywhere and just bodies lying all over the place, gold fittings shot to hell. The film just dies in total excess near the end. So look, in summing up, I don't think the film's a perfect masterpiece for me anymore. It's still hugely entertaining, phenomenal first half, great dynamic between Pacino and Stephen Bauer. It's one of the defining VHS era films, still unlike anything else from the time, but not in the top pantheon of films for me anymore in my 50s. So even with the flaws, it's quite unique. Nothing really feels like Scarface. Still quite enjoyable. Still recommended. So check it out if you can. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.